Last year, we did 1.4 mil in revenue. We did $1 million in profit. My content's job is not to make me look famous. Prior to this, I was a pipeline engineer. My program can work for a lot of people, but it's not designed for a lot of people. People are not paying for your perfection. They're paying for your perspective.
This is the Content Capitalist Podcast. We talk to business owners who've used video to grow their businesses to $1 million a year or more. How they did it, what worked, what didn't. Welcome to the Content Capitalists with your host, Ken Okazaki.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast, where I have conversations with real people who are making real money from their content. Now, today I've got a special guest with me. We met through communities like almost all my guests. These are people who I've met in real person, so I kind of know that they are who they say they are. Her name is Jereshia Hawk. Jereshia, welcome to the show.
Ken, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. One thing about you that impresses me is that when I'm on Facebook or whatever social platform I'm on, I keep seeing these alerts. Jereshia is live. Jereshia is, has up, and it is so consistent. Actually, I can't use the word consistent because I don't like have a check mark or a calendar where I'm tracking it, but I am always remembering you're always fresh in my memory because an alert just came up with your name on it. So, yeah, you are very, very good at doing this for a long period of time. And we met a few years ago and you're still at it. But what I want to talk about today is, first of all, could you introduce yourself? Let us know what you're doing, what's your business about? And then we'll go into talking a bit about your backstory and what's working for you in content creation.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you noticed the high volume of frequency when it comes to my content. So that makes me feel great. But my name is Jereshia Hawk. I am an online business coach, and I specifically work with industry experts who are trying to create, launch, and deliver $3,000 to $10,000 curriculum-based group coaching programs. So we work with coaches. We coach coaches who are either transitioning into coaching from their agency or already are maybe private one-on-one coaches and booked out, and they're trying to transition to group delivery, or DIY course creators who actually offer already a lot of coaching component in their digital course, and they actually want to reposition their course as an actual group coaching program. And a big part of what we focus on with clients is how to generate leads without cost per acquisition. So using live video and using video-based content is the primary way to build that trust, articulate your value, and attract qualified leads to apply for your program. So messaging and offer positioning, and doing lead generation through video-based organic content creation is the big bulk of what we work with clients on.
Wow. Now you just rattled off a lot of stuff, and you and me understand everything because we're kind of in the same circles, and all this stuff is like, oh yeah, it's kind of a day-to-day kind of thing. But I think for a lot of people listening, some of those things might have gone, right over their heads. Do you mind if I want to dig into a couple of those things? You said,
Absolutely, yeah.
but well, let me ask you first, which one of those things are you feeling that, like, when people come into you, they're green, they're good at what they do, but they're not helping enough people, right? Not making enough sales. What's the biggest mistake people are making that you notice in your world?
Yeah, most of my clients are phenomenal at deliver value in the sense of what they're delivering. They're incredible at the work that they do, but they have not yet really mastered or really even understood that there's a whole nother skill set of being able to properly articulate your value, especially when you're selling something intangible, when you're not selling a physical product, when you're selling your intellectual property, you're selling your experience, you're selling your advisory or your consultancy. We have to be mindful of how are we creating that level of tangibility, and how are we properly communicating the value of what that is for somebody who can't see it, touch it, feel it immediately. Because you can't, when you're coaching, there's a lot of trust that has to be built, and there's a lot of verbiage, vocabulary, precision with what you are communicating in order to help articulate that value in the sense where somebody else can understand what it is to help them make a buying decision. So I think that's, value delivery is always like cost of entry and where our clients start at. But then one of the next biggest gap that they have is, how do I effectively articulate my value? By clarifying what the promise of my program is, by being able to articulate what guarantee I'm actually providing for my clients. And most importantly, outside of like value articulation, most of our clients really struggle with, how do I proactively generate leads for my business that are at the qualification level they need to be at to be able to invest at a more premium priced offer in the online education space. So they're trying to kind of close this gap around the sophistication of their messaging, especially as they start solving more complex or sophisticated problems at that higher ticket price point, being able to find that alignment and congruency with how they articulate that value, how they align their messaging at a higher level, more sophisticated manner so that they can attract the right quality leads who can not only pay, but are a good fit for the offer that they're selling.
Okay. So basically they're trying to sell themselves without knowing how to present themselves, right? So give me an example. Let's say I'm a weight loss coach, right? And which I am not, but if I were, right? And I come to you and like I'm let's say you get 100 weight loss coaches. What's the most common mistake someone like me might be making? Like am I pitching too much? Am I not pitching enough? Is it not enough content too much?
There's too generic. Now, when we say like a weight loss coach, for example, maybe that weight loss coach when they came to us was selling, $97 hourly sessions or had a 597 digital course and saying that, I help people lose weight might have been sufficient at a sophistication level to get that sale at that 597 price point or at that $97 an hour price point. But like the health coaches that we have worked with, and they're like, I know that I'm seeing this massive transformation in my clients. And I know that I could be charging more, but I don't know how to create that bridge. Now, let's say they want to start selling a $3,000 program. That same, just saying, I help women lose weight or I'm a weight loss coach is no longer sufficient in order to reduce the perceived risk for somebody to maybe make that investment at the $3,000 price point. So when we are helping clients where they miss the mark there is starting to pay attention to where are those patterns of commonality with my best performing clients that I can start maybe speaking to more specifically in my messaging. And I'm thinking of one client in particular. She was a weight loss coach and kind of how she positions and markets herself now. What she noticed is that her best clients traveled more than 150 days out of the year. Most of her clients were flight attendants who were trying to lose more than 30 pounds of weight. And that's now we're speaking to a more specific problem, a more specific moment in time for the particular audience that she's serving. So instead of positioning herself as a weight loss coach, she now positions herself as like still a weight loss coach for female flight attendants who are trying to lose more than 30 pounds using a particular vehicle. She does using a particular vehicle and she specializes in like macro counting. So now we're able that gap, I think, for a lot of people as they start to elevate their price point, and as they start to try to attract a more qualified, a more sophisticated buyer, there's a level of precision and accuracy and specificity that usually is missing in their offer, but also missing heavily in their content. Because the topic that you might include in your messaging, if you're just a weight loss coach, is going to be a bit more, I think, generic or broad than if you're like, I'm keeping in mind a woman who travels 150 or more days out of the year is trying to lose 30 pounds. I can create much more specific content to the fears, the experiences that individual is really, really having.
I totally get that. And do you ever see pushback between that? Like when people create content, obviously if it's super specific, then there's going to be fewer views, smaller audience, and someone who's coming in, they might freak out, say, "Oh my god, like my stats are all down." Are people saying that to you when you tell them that?
Always, always, always. And the biggest thing we have to inform our clients on is when you start selling a more premium priced offer and really positioning yourself in that category, the metrics that you pay attention to have to change. So I think in the beginning, if like that same weight loss coach was again trying to grow her revenue, selling that 597, that's a much more of a volume game. So paying attention to how big is my audience, what is my reach. You want a larger audience because you need more eyeballs to get more sales to like at that lower price point for it to convert. But if you're selling a higher ticket offer, we don't care as much about the volume. We care about, the quality of the volume much, much more than we care about how big the volume actually is. Because you might have 50 people watch your live stream, maybe 5 come live and the other 45 watching the replay. But if 3 of those people or 4 of those people are the qualified leads, that flight attendant that's trying to lose 30 pounds, no, those 4 people paying $3,000, that's a totally different ball game. So we have to really shift our client's perspective even mine had to change like this when I started playing more in the premium priced arena in the education space. Is it's not about volume, it's about quality of volume. So it doesn't matter if it's, I'd rather have a smaller audience of more qualified leads and a bigger audience of non-qualified leads any day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you ever get this question? It's like, but look at what Grant Cardone is doing. Look what Gary Vee is doing, and like, why can't I do what they're doing? Now, I kind of I have an answer for this when people ask me. I want to hear what you say when people say that, because these guys, as a lot of people will consider them like at the top of the top when it comes to content creation in the business realm. And I think that in every community there is that the person that, or every industry, there's that person people kind of consider to be the leader, right? And people want to just skip a lot of stuff and just do what they're doing, right? And they don't see everything that they did to get there. But do you ever get that pushback?
Yeah, I mean, I think context is really important, and what's the intent behind the outcome that these individuals are hoping that their content is going to create. Like when I think of like a Grant Cardone or like the Hermosis, I know the Hermosis right now are like everywhere.
They're on fire.
They are, and they're incredible human beings. I met them a couple months ago in LA. But like when I think about the Hormozis or the Grant Cardones or whatever, they're not using content for the primary reason of generating leads to sell into a program. Like I remember when the Hormozis were kind of talking, I was at an event that they spoke at, and they were really talking about the reason why we're so focused on brand is because we're trying to attract talent for the companies that we are acquiring, and we're trying to attract companies that we can't acquire. So it's I think there's a different utilization of how they're looking at their brand and how they're using content. I think maybe even similar for Grant Cardone. I don't know. I'm totally like projecting a little bit, but I feel like the content is more so maybe finding investors for his real estate deals or maintaining this brand persona and this brand image. But they're at a different season. I think it's kind of like similar to the capital stack when they're at a different stage of the capital stack. I think that if you're somebody even like me, I mean, I'm a multi-million dollar coaching company, but like my content's job is not to make me look famous. My content's job is not to make me appear to be an influencer. My content's job is not to, every time I go into a business event, everybody knows my name. Like the role and the purpose of my content is to attract qualified leads for the program that I'm selling. So like, I think when we can understand like how am I utilizing this content as an asset, and really what is the return on investment? What is the outcome that I'm hoping that this content, the messaging that I'm putting out, the cadence of that, like what am I really trying to achieve with it? Like if you're trying to be an influencer, you're going to use content in a much different way than if your primary goal is monetization. And even with monetization, are you trying to monetize and attract leads? Are you trying to monetize and attract companies you can acquire? Are you trying to monetize and attract key talent for your team? Like, and depending on what your outcome is, how you utilize that content is really will adjust accordingly. So I think that sometimes when we're trying to compare ourselves, and I have to remind my clients of this, is like be very mindful of copying millionaires or mimicking millionaires, because their intent behind what they're doing is probably totally different, because you guys are at different seasons of business, different seasons of life. So like mimic somebody who's in the same season trying to get the same outcome as you. Because if I mimicked the Hermosis or mimicked Grant Cardone or mimicked Tony Robbins, I would be mimicking somebody's definition of success that's different than what I'm actually trying to achieve right now. And that can be really dangerous. And I think it can lead to burnout. It can lead to a lot of excess spending that's unnecessary, wasted time, wasted resources. And it'll really mess with your mentality too. Like it'll mess with your mental. But so yeah, I think that's kind of what I would say is like, I think context is really, really important, and be mindful of why is somebody doing what they're doing versus just, oh, they look successful, let me blindly copy what they're doing.
That right there, if anybody's listening, that right there should answer 99% of the questions on why people are doing the wrong thing or what you're doing wrong. Jereshia, you hit the nail on the head, and I so appreciate how you articulated it really, really well and gave some examples of real people. Now, usually right at the beginning of the podcast, I jump into a bit of backstory, and I what you were just saying was so good, so I was just going with the flow. But we've got to get some backstory. You touched on the fact that right now you're making multiple millions of dollars, but you had to have started from zero when you started this coaching business at some point. Let's go back to that point when you decided, hey, I think I want to be a coach, or I think someone might pay me $1 or maybe 50 cents for my time, right? And there's that harebrained moment where we all do that at some point. And I think a lot of people listening might be around there. So first of all, could you give us some perspective on how much revenue per year your coaching business is doing?
We're doing right around like 1.5 mil a year. We did 1.4 last year. We'll do probably about 1.6 by in the next 2 weeks by the end of this year. So that's where we're at right now. I think one of the biggest things I care much more about than revenue is profit. Last year we did 1.4 mil in revenue. We did $1 million in profit. We'll do another $1 million in profit this year as well. So like that's kind of like that's where we're at right now. And the big goal from last year to this year was a lot of just like maintenance and internal like optimization and standardization operationally. So we actually got rid of an offer. And we've been working a lot on trying to figure out what is the right team structure for not just where we're at, but where we're trying to grow. So I'm really happy that our revenue was able to grow just slightly this year. We've been doubling or tripling in revenue every year prior to this. But it was like, how do we maintain where we're at right now by actually cutting out an offer stream and also figuring out the team dynamic? So that's like where we're at right now.
Now, anybody who might be listening to on the podcast and not watching this on YouTube, I just want to say one thing. She is an extremely put together person. Like your lighting is on point, your makeup is on point, your hair is on point, your sound is on point, your camera, the background, everything. And you just glided right through it. Yeah, we did, $1 million or 1.5, and we're doing $1 million in profit. Now, here's the thing. What you just said there is, I think 99% of people who want to become career coaches, that's their dream to get there. So we would be doing a huge disservice if we didn't go back in time and explore that a little bit. But if you are listening to the podcast, I do encourage you, go to the show notes, find the YouTube link, and actually watch this video because Jereshia is a visual experience, not just an auditory experience. So you've got to come check it out, or at least just skim through it so you can see who this person is. She's absolutely stunning, beautiful, and this is making my day already.
Well, Ken, you helped me with my video setup the very first time. So let's make sure like we get that clear. Like you were the first person I chatted with when I was
Well, you
trying
took
to
it
like
further. Look at
improve
you.
my
Like this is
visual.
more than
But
the
you helped me get
I
going.
did.
You
I
helped
did.
me get going.
Oh wow. Well, thank you for the reminder of that. I actually totally forgot. So let's go back. What year was it when you decided I want to make money as a coach?
2016 was when I was like recording my very first Facebook Live videos and even discovered that this industry existed. But I wouldn't say I was trying to make money as a coach that year. Well, maybe towards the very end, like around November of 2016 is when I'm like, oh, like coaching is a thing. Do you ever watch the movie Hitch?
Oh, I love Hitch. I love Hitch so much.
That's the first coach I've ever really seen outside of like an athletic coach because he was a relationship coach, like a dating coach.
Yeah, it's true.
And yeah, and it's like, oh, he was very involved with his client, but I was like, when I really looked
That must be really expensive. Like something like what he do. What's that, like 100 grand or so?
I know, I don't know. But that was like I didn't know coaching was like people, I thought coach was like, oh, the gym teacher or like the basketball coach. Like I didn't know this was like an industry.
Or the purse.
Yeah, something. Like not this. But prior to this, I was a pipeline engineer. So I'm a civil engineer by degree. I was working at a utility and I was in like the natural gas department and I was a transmission pipeline engineer prior to doing this.
Okay, is this like oil pipelines?
Natural gas.
Gas. Okay. So you went to college to learn engineering so you can help keep people's homes warm pretty much.
Well, I mean, I didn't know that was what the work was going to be, but that's what the work ended up being. Yeah.
Okay. And is this like a generational thing? Were your parents engineers too?
No, 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 no. Absolutely not. Like I started off college as an architect major. I loved houses. I loved real estate. I loved playing The Sims when I was a kid. And I would research like house blueprints, and then I would get the cheat codes for The Sims, and I would recreate the blueprints in the game. It was like a high school teacher that his name was Mr. Wellman, and it was an architecture engineering class. And I never thought I was smart enough to be an engineer. So I'm like, I'm just going to stay doing architecture. But it's my second year of college. Like my family dynamic changed, and my aunt passed away. My aunt and grandmother raised me, and my aunt passed away, and she had a 2-year-old son. And I thought I was going to have to take care of a kid. So I changed my major to civil engineering because it was the closest thing to architecture. But I knew that engineers got paid more money when you graduated. So that's the only reason why I switched, was because I thought I would have a kid to take care of financially, because my grandmother was like 78 at the time. She's still raising this kid now. My cousin's 16, my grandma's 90, and she is a firecracker. Like she can still drive, she can still do all the things. Like she is, I don't know, it blows my mind, but that's the only reason why I actually switched into engineering, because I wanted a job that was somewhat related to structures or something. So that was my brain correlation there, and I'm like, I knew that I'd get paid more money when I graduated. So I kind of, I don't want to say stumbled into it, but
Yeah. I've never been to, like, I don't know so much about the US education system. I kind of sound American, but I'm Japanese. When you're in high school, right? Is that what most people are having conversations about? Like, you pick your major based on how much income you want. Is that how most people think?
I mean, America. I just feel like America. I mean, it's a capitalistic society. So I mean, I don't know if everybody is that way, but like for my situation being what it was, I was like money. I've always cared about money. Like my family, just money has always been a priority for me. Making good money, being well off, having more than I need, it was always been a priority of mine. So I think I mean, I'd probably say a good amount of Americans. Now, this new generation, this stuff might be different. Like I feel like Gen Z, and early stage millennials, and even millennials now, I feel like it's changing a little bit where there's more people who are caring about like the purpose and the passion and the impact of the work more than money, or maybe an equilibrium. But I don't know. I feel like if you're in America, because of the capitalistic society, I can't speak for everybody, but I mean, like, I know a lot of my classmates, money was a huge thing. I remember people switching their majors to like either electrical engineering or biomedical engineering, or mechanical engineering, because usually those degree specialties got paid more at the same companies just because it was electrical or mechanical or whatever. So maybe some people might not. Some people might be, go to college for passion and what they desire to just learn about for 4 years. I was not in a situation, I feel like, where I had that luxury of an option or that privilege of an option. It was absolutely about where can I make good money? What can I hopefully do that will maybe be enjoyable? But money was first, enjoyment was second. Um, but yeah, so that was my thought process. But I mean, I don't know. I think it depends on like household, what you're kind of coming from, what your parents raised you to value. I don't know, but I feel like if you're in America, money's always some part of the conversation.
Do you ever check out that book called Ikigai,
No,
or that? Do you ever hear that concept?
no.
Oh, do you read books? Do you like reading?
Yeah, absolutely, like real books. I buy them off of Amazon.
Okay, there is one called Ikigai, Ikigai. I'd highly recommend it because everything you're talking about right now, and I'm sure you've seen this Venn diagram where there's four circles, right? What you love doing, what you get paid for doing, what you're good at, and what the world needs, right? And the intersection of those four things, it's a Japanese term called Ikigai, which is like your purpose on life, like the thing that you will for the rest of your life jump out of bed excited about because you know the world needs it, you know you're good at it, you know you get paid for it, and I think the third one is, you know, you're good at it, paid for, world needs, and anyhow, there's four things. I should know this because I'm bringing this up, but it's such a what you're describing there, and I think for a lot of content creators and businesses that this is how they find their thing that they could do forever, whether there's a bump in the road or you know a delay or something, right, which always happens. But that's beautiful. I love that. Now, um, you watched the movie Hitch. You know Will Smith doing his thing. Oh, that's such a good movie. And then you got this idea. Hey, there's coaching.
Well, I didn't get that correlation. Like, literally, that correlation didn't even click into my mind until, like, yesterday. I was on a team meeting with my marketing coordinator, and he brought it up. I'm like, that's the first time I ever saw a coach. I think in the coaching industry, I didn't know this existed until I was invited to speak at an event, and one of the panelists was a business coach. And I was like, oh, that's what I think it is that I'm trying to figure out how to do. And then I met somebody who was actually doing it, and that bridged the gap, and I hired her, and then still it started snowballing into this world.
Okay, got it. Now, fast forward to when you got your first paying client. How did that come about?
The first paying coaching client was $180 for a 3-month program. It was my cousin bought it. I was in like a leadership training program. she was actually the first person who purchased it, who was in this training program with me. And she was like, I really think that you need to be teaching people around like kind of like what you're doing and like going after your goals and being really strategic and thinking about it. So she actually encouraged me a lot to like look at this as like a let me hire you type of thing. So the girl who was in the leadership program with me, she was the first person that bought at $180. And I think at the time, it's like you don't, at least for me, I didn't realize, like, I didn't understand how you put a price tag on just helping somebody. Like, because in corporate, you mentor and coach and lead other people all the time, but that's just expected of you. It's part of like the job description, even though it may not be part of your actual role. I was an engineer, but I was involved in employee resource groups. I led our internship programs, like all that mentoring and coaching and like advisory type of stuff was just expected of you. It was never part of your compensation. So I think thinking about like when this individual like had asked me to if they could hire me, I'm like, I didn't even know how to value it. I didn't know what to correlate it against, but it felt incredible because I was like, whoa, somebody just paid me to like ask me questions and give them advice on what I would do. Like that's insane. Um, it was like the best feeling ever.
And how much did you pay your coach?
Well, I didn't have a coach at the time. So right after I did that like small cohort of 6 people for 180 bucks. And then after that cohort, I went to this event and I was like, okay, like I started to see, okay, Jay, you're like making a little bit of money, but like, do you actually want this to be a business or is this more of just like a passion hobby type of project? And I had like a real heart to heart moment with myself. And when I decided that, being at that conference really helped me see the differentiation. And that coach was $3,000. And I will never forget, I was in the drive-through line at Boston Market buying a kid's meal because I never can eat the full adult size menu. They give us way too big portion sizes in America. And but I got the kids meal and I remember going through the drive-through and she told me the price and I had to mute my phone and I was just like, I started cussing a little bit between when I placed my order and when I had to pay for the order. And then I unmuted and I was like, just hold on 1 second. And then I paid for my Boston Market and I pulled over and parked and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I was like ready to like shit a brick or something. Like that felt like so much money. And it is for your first investment, but she was $3,000.
It's 3 grand, right? You said?
Yeah, it was $3,000. I'm like, I had never spent $3,000 on anything. Like my car at the time was less expensive than $3,000. Like I was driving a Chevy Cavalier, paid 1,200 bucks for it.
And you just charged someone $180, right? So that was your frame. That might have been your frame of mind of like, oh, they might charge 180, maybe 500. Was that what you're thinking? Like as they're
I don't even know. I mean, I went from 180, then I thought to do it for $360. Um,
no, but what was your frame of mind of well, like you must have had a number in your mind as you're listening to this coach who just charged you $3,000. But before they said that number, did you have a number in your mind that you're expecting them to say?
oh, I had no idea. I mean, I didn't even know what to compare it against. Like I had no frame of reference, but I think meeting her in real life, like at this event, I was with her for like 2 days. Like that played a huge part in that transfer of trust. And then, like I've started following her online after that and like consuming her content. So like if that trust was not established, there's no way. I'm like, I don't know who this person is. Like there's no way I probably would have done it. But I think I had experience in I knew the value though of not trading time for money. Because in college I used to do auto shows for Chrysler, and we would get paid day rates. And that was the first time that I had really experienced like, oh, I'm being compensated not based off of like you're here for 3 hours, here's 30 bucks an hour, but they would pay us like a couple $100 a day. We would get like custom tailored clothes, we would get the flights and all the things. And that really busted my belief on how you can earn money. And then in college, I started my first business. I had like an online clothing boutique, like an e-commerce store, and I made $50,000 that year within that business. And I was like, my senior year of school. So like it was, I think I understood like this person's $3,000, but Jay, what is the expected return on investment versus just only focusing on the cost? So those previous experience helped make that purchase a little bit more palatable, but it was still very scary because I didn't really understand like what I was doing to how it could be more. Like I didn't, there was like a lot of faith I was holding on to, and I was borrowing a lot of her belief and maybe what she saw in me and in that to kind of do it. But yeah.
When you create your selling experience or your buying experience for your customers now, do you ever go back to that moment and try to model what you were thinking and feeling to what your, current clients come in?
Always, like, I think
Like the fears, yeah.
yeah, like, I think
Because that experience, like what you said there, like you muted, you had to cuss and like get it out, but you went for it anyway. Like that is so visceral right there. I like you should make a TikTok or a short form on reliving that moment, driving through, getting the
oh my god. Do I get the recording of this?
oh, absolutely.
Well, yeah, we will then.
I want my editors to take this part and make that into a short form. But no, what you just said there, like how you describe that's going to be a great piece of content. Like just say, hey, because as you were saying that, I'm just imagining you in your car. You got your little kids menu, right? Like
Kids meal.
yeah, right? Like for me, to tell you, even if I wasn't going to eat the whole thing, I would still order an adult one and eat half of it and throw it away, which is a waste, which is terrible. But I just can't imagine myself ordering a kid's meal because I'm an adult. But
Well, I mean, they do be trying to shame you, like, "Oh, you're not 12." I'm like, I'm well aware, and I do not need the larger portion size. The kid size is perfect for me.
yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah. Like I just have too much what I don't know what the word is.
I mean, it takes a little bit of courage to
Yeah, it
go
does.
up
It
there as a
does.
grown person and like, "Yeah, I like the kids meal for myself. I don't have children."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Got to do that. Um, okay, let's. Thank you for sharing this. This is awesome. Now, this $3,000. If and I know there's going to be so many moving parts, hard to calculate. But what was your ROI on that? Like, is there any way we could measure that?
Oh, man. I mean, I started enrolling private one-on-one clients at $3,000 due to that relationship. So, I mean, I easily got a full ROI back. I'd probably say maybe with that experience, maybe made about like 12 grand or $15,000 after, which like that like expanded my belief in what was possible so much for myself. That was great because I think one thing about me is I'm a really big believer in like invest in the thing that you're trying to offer. Like you need to have, I think, proximity to the problem. And I never would I think I would have had a really difficult time like coaching somebody on how to do that if I've never experienced it. Like I don't have proximity to that experience. Um so I mean experiencing it, seeing it was like, paying attention to like what you were saying earlier about my emotions and my mental state and like where I was having apprehension, when things felt easy and like even paying attention to my own emotional experience of that relationship really helped me be a better coach because now I'm like those same things that you're feeling and going through, your clients are. So, how can you anticipate that need as you're crafting your offer or structuring your curriculum or coaching your clients? And I think it allows you to approach with a lot more empathy and to confront with care and to really connect before you start like correcting your clients. Because like they're having a whole human experience while they make this investment with you. It's not just about doing the work, but it's about who they're becoming in the process of choosing to make this commitment and doing the work. And as a coach, I think you can't isolate those two things. Like you have to be mindful of both of those things because you're dealing with a whole human going through a whole human experience while they're doing something that requires maybe a lot of courage or a lot of vulnerability for them where for the season that they're in.
Absolutely. Um, I just realized I'm having so much fun talking with you that we just, we're taking way longer than expected. But I've got to get to the point in time because this is what my listeners are waiting for is what's working for you now? What's your content strategy? And how do we connect the dots between you present in front of, your phone or your webcam or whatever, and that what happens to turn that person to a customer and you got their credit card on file. So let's start with content creation, planning, or whatever stage that is.
Yeah. Well, I think that most important thing to remember with content is like the sales conversation starts the moment somebody starts consuming your content. And I think that's a really important like message to understand. So all of my free content is really focused around not telling people what to do, but really teaching them how to think and aligning the messaging within my content, aligning that with how people are making buying decisions. So what is like unaware, problem aware, solution aware, like, even what we talked about me in the drive-through line at Boston Market, it's like that there could be content just even about how do you manage and regulate your emotions when you're making a buying decision. Like that's a piece of content you could be giving to your audience because that's probably what they're going to be experiencing when they're making a buying decision. So all of my content is really focused on that. I'm not very how to tactical in my content, but it's really more about shifting beliefs, addressing objections, introducing a new perspective that again aids that person into really understanding and helping them pre-diagnose what their problem actually is, helping them discover out of all the options they can consider to make for what their solution could be, how do they decide and determine which is the best solution for them. And then ultimately once they're aware of their problem and aware of the solution that they need to solve that problem, is this container that I'm selling the best, one of the options that can address the solution that they're looking for. So when I think about my content, that's like the high level thought process. And going back to what we mentioned earlier, being very niche in the type of person that I'm trying to work with. My program can work for a lot of people, but it's not designed for a lot of people. It's designed for a very specific individual. So the more of that, precision and specificity, that is, those two things are really the core components of the messaging that we create. And then from a content calendar perspective, I mean, if we're in a launch versus if we're not in a launch, our content calendars look a little bit different. If we're in the middle of a launch, we do something called the lean launch method, which is how I actually got my first few clients and now is a proprietary process. But you're doing 9 live videos over 3 weeks addressing those different phases of awareness. So if I'm in a lean launch, I'm doing 9 live videos over the course of 3 weeks to really address those, again, stages of awareness. If I'm not in a launch, I normally do maybe 1 live video a week, more so, and then we'll tailor the messaging just based off of the hesitations, the objections, or the qualifications that we're noticing of the people that are applying. So our content is very, I think, reactive, real time to what's going on with how people are making buying decisions. So it's very relevant, I guess is what I should say. And so that's high level. We use all like long form live videos. And then from there, we will
When you say long form, how long is that?
like 15 to 30 minutes. I'm a talker though.
And you're good at it.
Thank you. This is where I'm most natural. Like I'm best like in interview, very conversational things. But I'd say most of our clients are somewhere between like 10 minutes and 30 minutes or something. Um, Mine are usually a bit longer because at the end I'll do a Q&A for people who are on. So like that adds another 15 minutes to it. But the core message, maybe 15, somewhere in that. It's not like crazy, crazy long, but more longer form content. And then we strategically repurpose all of my long form live streams into short form, like reels. Before reels came out, we did IGTVs, like that 1 minute or less. And then we also repurposed my live streams for podcast episodes. So we try to have this trifecta of long form main content, repurpose that long form content into short form content on newsfeed or on YouTube Shorts or wherever you kind of do video, and then repurpose the live videos into podcast episodes. Repurpose those long form live videos into email nurture sequences. So we strategically repurpose all, but everything starts with that long form live video.
Love it. Out of everything you said there, the thing that stuck with me, and I think that a lot of people have said this, and you've said this, but a lot of newbies are not doing it. It's focus on how to think, not what to do, because everybody just wants to copy what the videos that are at the top of the list of all the with all the metrics, right? The views, the engagement, those are how-to videos. But if you're looking for paying customers, it's a different journey. YouTubers are trying to monetize views, right? And that's the mistake. They're playing a different game. It's like you go in and you're learning to play tennis and you're watching a basketball star and trying to get hints on what he's doing, right? It's a different sport. If you get millions of views, then yeah, you do pranks, you do, outrageous things, anything for the views or how-tos. Then YouTube is going to pay you money for, a couple cents per 1,000 views, right? What we're doing here, you and me, and I think the people watching this, is trying to educate people on how to make a buying decision for your product, period. And that's it, until that switch turns in people's minds. And I'm sure you're seeing this with your audience because you're all over it. I see it with my audience. Until that switch turns and people stop looking at the vanity metrics and comparing themselves against Mr. Beast, for example, like it's just ridiculous how many people come to me and say, Mr. Beast is doing this. I'm like, Do you have $500,000 to give away and get 1,000 people together and make a video on that? Like, no. It's like, then let's not do what Mr. Beast is doing. He's playing basketball. We're playing tennis. Okay, let's go. So it's a difference.
It's true though, but they're playing a different game. Like they're trying to get paid from YouTube, not get paid from direct customers. So like I think it's context is just so important of why is somebody doing what they're doing? What is their definition of success? What's your definition of success?
Okay. Now somebody comes in, the content, obviously we're starting to educate them how to think. Now, what's the first, like the lowest level thing or the first thing people usually will buy coming into your world? What when money transaction happens?
Well, for the last like 18 months, the least expensive thing somebody could buy from us was our program leverage. And that was between 15 and 18,000, depending on the payment plan option. Um, and that was like our, if you either consume my free content or you join leverage. So that was where we've been at for a long time. We've also noticed like going into next year though, we're changing things up a little bit. Like we have last year I was do like these like 3-hour workshops, again, based off of objections that I was getting that we noticed a large population of our applicants were at, which was really holding them back. So I would pop up and randomly do like a 3-hour workshop that people could attend. And we've been reselling the recordings of those live trainings recently. And that's been really nice, I think, too, for my audience, where not everybody is ready for leverage or even qualified for our program, but it still is a way for us to kind of serve that need. But like, I'm also at a different capacity stage in my business. Like, I would not have done that and don't advise clients to do that when they're just getting started or making less than like 300 grand a year. Even some clients making less than 700, making less than $1 million a year. Like I didn't have the capacity to market publicly a low ticket offer in addition to marketing a high ticket offer simultaneously to the public because it caused too much confusion. And those two types of buyers, I think in the online education space, around the $3,000 price point is when there's a huge shift in perceived risk. There's a huge shift in what is influencing how somebody makes a buying decision. So when I was making less than $1 million, had less team members, had every action that I took, I had less capacity. I didn't do both. Everything either led to like one offer that was always marketed publicly, and that's all people in the public saw, was a higher ticket offer, something that was $3,000 or more. So I want to make sure, I don't mind answering the question for where I'm at today, but I do want to offer context on, I would not have done that and did not do that earlier on.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure if you were there, but in one of the, we're inside of a mastermind, or we were, right? And one of the things that were shared was, I think someone made this distinction that all of the people who they knew of who were doing, 5 to 10 or more $1 million as a coach, they sold their highest ticket thing up front. And then if they did have lower ticket things, they offered that for the people who were like, I really want to do it, but I don't have the cash right now. Then they offer, maybe all the way down to the hundreds range of dollars, right? And doing that in reverse made such a difference because they've already anchored their price at 15,000 or 30 or 40, and anything else feels like a discount. Whereas if you do it the other way around, then you're going to get a lot of people who might never even see that higher uh, offer, and they're not setting their vision big enough to make it their goal to get there at some point. Right. It makes such a difference if like, for example, I joined Tony Robbins Platinum Partners a while ago, and I was in for like 4 years. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but it's over 100 grand
I
a
have a
year.
girlfriend that's in
Yeah.
it. She keeps telling me to check it out. And I'm like, maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe. And I'm not trying to sell it right now, but what I'm trying to say is that I set my goal. I was like, that's a lot. It's like 120 grand a year or something, right? And when I first heard that price, everything else in comparison, like, hey, let's go to date. What at Destiny? What is it? $8,000. Oh yeah, nothing, right? Like, but then if it went the other way around, I just keep feeling like I'm getting hit with the waves. It's like, oh no, the next wave is gonna knock me over. No, the next one's gonna knock me over. But when I already saw the peak, I was like, okay, now let's make some steps to get there. And I just remember that buying experience.
But price anchoring, and it all goes back to perception. Like so much of our job when we're selling is how are we reducing that perceived risk that a buyer feels, whether it's logical or not. And like, you see 120 and it's like you said, $8,000. It's like, oh, that's chump change. Like that's like it's inconsequential. when you're comparing it to 120. But like you said, if you're comparing 8,000 to 15 and then to 30, like I love the analogy you said, oh gosh, I just keep getting hit by another wave. The perceived risk and the perceived threat feels totally different.
Right. It's, you know how I see these comments, right? Like these endless, I haven't seen any recently, but there's these automated funnels where, you know, it goes from $2 or $0 to $2 to 10 to 15 to all the way up to, I don't know, 15,000 or something. And that's what I felt when I was going through those as a newbie. I was just like, what are you not done
Another
yet?
one?
Right. And it's just like, this is getting ridiculous. And sure, they'll make some money there. And I think that can work for certain people. But I like to do it in the reverse, you know, like, hey, you know, like for example, clients that work with me on typical, it's going to start at $10,000 a month, 1 year commitments. That's a $120,000 contract. And we do everything from coaching on content to deliver, you know, editing to, you know, taking care of all their social media for them. And after that, if people are like, hey, that's not for me, we're like, hey, we do have some other things to, you know, to help you get to that stage. So, you know, but we just like to put our premium offer up front, knowing that most people are not ready for that, but still I want them to work toward building up to that. We're almost out of time here. I'd love to know if somebody wants to get in touch with you. They got, for some reason they heard this and they're inspired to want to learn more about you, perhaps get in your program. Where's the best place to go to find out that first step?
Yeah, my only ask is just tag us on Instagram. Like Instagram is where I play most often. I also have a podcast called Jereshia Said on like iTunes and Spotify. But I would love if you just tag both Ken and I on Instagram in your stories and just like let us know that you were listening. Let us know what your top takeaway was. I would love to continue the conversation with you there.
Thank you so much. Now, guys, definitely check it out. Also, but is it at Jereshia Hawk? Is that your handle
Yeah,
across?
at Jereshia
Okay,
Hawk.
perfect. We'll put that into the description and the show notes. Uh, one last thing: if somebody knows they need to create content, right? Maybe they have a business, but they haven't made that leap. They think they don't look good on camera. They think they sound weird when they hear themselves back, which happens a lot, right? Or they think that they'll never, you know, be as good as Mr. Beast. So they shouldn't get started. You know, whatever that is. What advice do you have for that person? They've got a business, but they're not creating content and they know they need to. What do you say to that person?
Well, one, social capital is one of the most important forms of capital as we move into the future. So, like, earning people's attention, I think, is going to be such a valuable thing for you to invest in and pay attention to. But the thing that I would say is that people are not paying for your perfection, they're paying for your perspective. And if you want somebody to invest with you, to build that trust with you, to have that level of safety and security making a buying decision from you, your personality factors into that decision making. Your perspective on how you solve the problem and who you solve it for factors into that decision making, and your presence is required. Like if you were running a brick and mortar business, you would physically have to go to work every day to unlock that door to let customers in, and you would talk to real humans every day to help them make buying decisions for whatever it was that you're selling. The same thing is very much true when you're selling online. It's just there's no physical door to unlock. The physical door to unlock is you showing your face on camera. That's like the metaphor, the analogy, or the comparison. So like if don't expect you can't do business when your office is closed. And having a website is not the door being open. Like having a website is like having the doormat that is outside of your front door. It's not the door being open. So I would highly, highly encourage you guys to, or encourage you to share your perspective, and just remember that it's safe for you to be seen. It's safe for you to be seen. Um, and to remember that, and like in all of your glory and all of who you are, exactly where you're at right now, you're enough.
Thank you so much for that. And I would tweak that notch. I love how you said the website is like the doormat outside. I'd say the website is more like the mat that's in front of the cashier.
Right. Yeah, that's actually probably better. Like I know some people look at their website like, oh, I have a website, like people can come to me. And it's like, but how do they get to the website? You're probably right. Your doormat is the one in front of the cashier. It's like the runner once you are in the store.
Yeah, I think that social gets people to your website, and that's the website is just where I used to get people to, you know, input their credit card info. That's about it. A bit of it,
Mhm.
a few bullet points, but they've already bought me through everything else. Jereshia, thank you so much. You've been an awesome guest. I personally enjoyed this a lot. I think that anybody who stuck around to the end of this, you would have gotten tons of value. please do share it. Tag Jereshia. Uh, Share this post. Let more people hear and find out about Jereshia, what she's doing. And thank you very much for listening. Bye for now, Jereshia, and I'll see you next time.
That was so fun.